Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming to INVO Underwriting's webinar today with Joseph from 3. He's going to give you the rundown on things, but first I'm going to show you actually how to get to 3 in our portal before we start. So I will show you my screen, which is already there. All I did was type in invounderwriting.com. Once you're there, you'll click the agent portal. It's going to make you log in. It's automatically going to bring you to the products page. And once you scroll down, you'll see 3 right here. You will have to get a login registration for them. So if you have not, I highly recommend doing so. But really, that's all you do and how simple it is to get to them in our portal. So now I will let Joseph take over. Let me stop sharing my screen. And I will give Joseph this access. And Joseph, you should be good to go.
Okay, I think I just got it. All right. I'll share my entire window here. I think that's the best way to go about this. Let's see. I want to make sure I share the right one, though. Let's see. Yeah, I think, well, it's got at least this on here. It doesn't show that, but that's
And
okay. I think I
Joseph,
can.
we'll wait for questions at the end because they're in
Yeah.
quiet mode. So at the end, everyone will put their questions in the question box and I'll read them to you afterwards.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. Here I was doing sharing window and not entire screen. So here we go. This should be everything here on the screen. Yep, I think we're good to go. All right, fantastic. Well, so hi everyone. My name is Joseph Schaff. I'm with 3 Insurance. I'm the account manager for INVO Underwriting. Me and my team will be your resources when you're using our agent portal. And as Avery said, we will get you credentials if you don't already have them. You'll just reach out to Avery, and we'll get those set up for you. And we'll also get this PowerPoint that I'm going to go through here today. I'll send it over to Avery when we're done, and then she can send it to everyone that's on the call. So you won't have to take notes on this if you don't want to. But yeah, basically this is 3 Insurance, and we're named 3 because our policy is set up to be a 3-page policy. Quite literally, if you go to our website, you'll see the actual policy is right up here under our policy. The first page is the deck page, which has the specifics about the policy, but then the next 3 pages are all the exact same regardless of the policy that's written. Now, there will be occasionally additional pages added onto the policy if the state requires it, but our goal is to minimize that, and we were set up to be a very simple, easy to read, easy to understand policy for small business owners. And that's really what this slide talks about, is why we are the way we are. The things that we cover on our policy, we are comprehensive. That's the reason we consider it to be a simple policy. We cover all business liability, all business property owned by the business, which would include buildings and or business personal property. Workers' comp doesn't have to be on every policy, but it can be on most all states. The only states that we cannot are the monopolistic states, Ohio's, I think it's North Dakota, Oregon, I can't think of the third, Wyoming. So, and then commercial auto also, here, I'll show you this next slide here. This shows all the coverages, but it shows the workers' comp and commercial auto are off to the side. You don't have to have commercial auto on any policy with the exception of one very unique situation. If you have a food truck that's actually a food trailer where it's towed by a vehicle, we actually have to insure a vehicle that will tow the trailer. That's the only time that we have to have commercial auto on the policy. Otherwise, commercial auto does not have to be on there. But this is pretty straightforward. All the coverages for liability are on there, including directors and officers, liquor liability, hired and not owned. Anything the business would need will be on here. Property, once again, all perils, includes flood and earthquake, replacement cost coverage. We always do replacement costs as opposed to actual cash value. And we insure the buildings as well as any business personal property. The only property that would not necessarily be on there is if they have commercial autos. They can have a separate policy for that. and that's obviously the physical property that they would insure through a different company. But otherwise, all other properties here, we schedule every vehicle that's on our policy if they include commercial auto, which is a reason why we cannot do new and used car dealers. But I'll talk about that in a separate slide here on our appetite. This is the coverage that we have, our footprint in the United States. We're in over half the countries. 60% of small U.S. small businesses are included. We're growing. We just added Ohio last month. We're looking to add New York possibly next month. It seems to be on track, and possibly New Mexico. And then in the next year, we hope to have Florida on there as well, which would be another big score. Michigan's one that we're also talking about possibly having soon. That's for these other little mid-continental and southeastern states. We're working on getting them added. We will as soon as we can, but for now, we don't have them yet. What is our appetite? This is a broad view picture of our appetite. We handle, this is alphabetical in no particular order, artisan and trade contractors, which is your electricians, plumbers, and those types of contractors. Auto services, which is your mechanics, body shops, things like that. Cleaning and janitorial. Habitational and lesser's risk only, landlord situations, if you will. Hospitality, which is, I'll start off with because that was our biggest category that we first got my department started with. We have a very robust policy for hotels, motels, including motels with exterior entries. So definitely there. Main Street retail businesses, mom and pops. Personal and professional services. This is your accountants, some gyms and things like that, some other smaller categories. And then restaurants and bars is also a very productive category for us as well. There's a couple exceptions to some of these, and we'll go through those in the appetite, but those are our primary categories. The ineligible industries are transportation, which is your trucking, logistics. Think of anything with a DOT number. Generally, we do have some policies that do have DOT number vehicles on them. We can do that. We can do filing. But when it comes to the big things like trucking and logistics, we do not handle those. It's not in our appetite. Builders and new construction. That's actually kind of not true. We do handle remodeling and other types of business construction or construction policies. The reason we had that on there was because we could not handle workers' comp in that category. Well, now we don't have to have workers' comp on every policy, so we do allow more building and new construction. There are some that we do not allow, and that's on a case-by-case basis, depending on the state and such. But we'll go through that as well. Manufacturing, any large-scale manufacturing is something we do not cover. Product liability in that case is too big for a comprehensive policy, so we do not cover any of those. Healthcare, basically anything where you have a healthcare professional, a doctor, pharmacist, nurse, nurse practitioner, psychologist, someone with a licensed healthcare degree, we are not going to be able to insure, and that also includes if it's a landlord situation. So let's say they have a shopping mall and there's a doctor's office in there. Unfortunately, we will not be able to insure in that case because of the ever-present risk of healthcare liabilities. Multi-state operations. Technically, at this point, we do not handle multi-state. So let's say you have a business in Georgia, and they also have a business or a shop under the same business EIN number in Alabama. We cannot handle that situation. That being said, if they operate in Georgia and they cross state lines into Alabama for day work or whatever, that's fine. If they have employees that are located in Alabama or Florida or Nebraska, where I'm located, or anywhere else in the country, that's okay too. The multi-state is just referring to fixed base operations in more than one state. And then finally, staffing services. That's kind of a small category. It's one we don't handle. And I'm sorry, Avery, we said we do want to handle any questions that come up, or are we going to wait till the end?
We'll wait till the end.
Sure.
And you can answer them all then. Yeah.
Sounds good. Everyone hold your questions, write them down, and at the end we'll go through them. So moving along to the appetite, hospitality I put as our number one because this is where we got started. Like I said, we have a very robust policy for hotels and motels. We include motels with exterior entry, which is a very difficult category to find for a lot of carriers. So that's something we do have, which is really nice. You can include restaurants, pools, and fitness centers. When you start talking about water parks, on the other hand, that's something we do not have the ability to insure. Other things about this policy for this category, covers all of those main category and the coverage highlights. These are the primary ones that are needed for these types of businesses. One that's not listed on there is commercial auto. Let's say you have a van that has a hotel that has a shuttle van for airport pickups. We can do that. We can put that on as commercial auto. So that's something else we can do. What we cannot do in this category is handle people that do not have 3 years of management experience. So if they're brand new to the whole hotel industry and they just bought a hotel, that's something we cannot insure. If they own another hotel, they've been running it for a while, and they're buying a brand new hotel, that's fine. As long as you got 3 years of management experience, we're okay. We also don't do short-term rentals like Airbnb or VRBO. And then the high crime scores on here because in this category alone, hotels and motels, a crime score of 50 or higher is an exclusion. All of our other categories, it's 80, which is a larger threshold and allows for more opportunities. But in this particular category, when they're in rough areas, if it's a crime score of 50 or higher, we cannot insure it. And you'll know when you start the quote out, once you put the address in, it'll give you underwriting result that'll show it's due to the crime score. And you can stop at that point because there's really nothing we can do. Once we've seen a crime score, we are not allowing. So that's primary for hospitality. Restaurants and bars, another big category for us. We include all of these different things: restaurants, bars, bakeries, cafes, food trucks. I did mention that if it's a food trailer, we actually have to have commercial auto on it to cover the vehicle that tows the trailer. But we include liquor liability on every single policy. There's a question on almost every application: is there liquor sales, or what is the liquor sales? If you put a dollar amount there, liquor liability is covered at our business liability limits automatically. We cannot remove it. Same thing with the other coverages here, like cyber liability and such. We can never remove any of those liability coverages. They're all part of our policy. And if it's something that, let's say you've got an electrician who doesn't do any liquor sales, technically liquor sales is part of the policy, but they're not being charged for it because there's no liquor sales there. That's not really an issue for them. But it does protect them should they have a situation where maybe they host an event for some of their clients at a local watering hole and something happens. Liquor liability is on there automatically for them. So good to know. The areas that we cannot handle in this category, think nightclubs. Think where you've got bouncers, dance floors, hookah situations, bottle service, primarily alcohol served in a nightclub-like setting. That's really where we're unable to do anything with at this point. Our questionnaire does go through and weed that stuff out. It does ask questions about, do they have weapons on site? Do they have an incident control log and things like that? Those are all pretty standard questions nowadays for these categories, but our policy or our questionnaire definitely goes through those. The unique situation here is South Carolina. They have dram shop laws that prevent us from selling a comprehensive policy in that state if there's more than 30% of sales in alcohol. So if it's a mom and pop restaurant and they have incidental sales of alcohol in South Carolina, not a problem. If it's a bar where it's pretty much alcohol alone in South Carolina, we're not going to be able to get into that. And there's other things that we, will not cover, but they're in a more unique case by case basis, and I'll show you how you can find those things out. Moving along, habitational and lesser risk only landlord situations. We handle all of these: apartments, office buildings, shopping centers, mixed use. Mixed use, of course, would be a commercial situation combined with the habitational. So maybe a store that has at the bottom the store and then at the top apartments. We can insure that as long as the landlord is not living in the apartments. Anytime a landlord's living in the building, it's considered personal lines for personal insurance. We cannot insure that. That's something that's not mentioned on our slide here, but I wanted to mention that so you guys knew that. If the landlord actually lives on the property, we cannot insure because then it's considered personal lines. We include all the main coverages for this category. The key thing here is the notable declines. We don't handle warehouses, storage, hospitals, nursing homes, etc. We don't do any dorms or student housing. We don't do short-term or vacation rentals. We do not handle HOAs and condo associations if you're trying to insure the buildings. If it is just the association and you're trying to insure for the business only, that's something we can do. But if they're trying to insure the buildings, we cannot do that because it's more of a personal line scenario where your people are insuring their own home. and that's an area we cannot get into. And then the final exclusion here is, specific to California. If you have a habitational setting, whether it's mixed use or just apartments, and it was built before 1990, we cannot insure it. The reason being, California's got a very specific set of laws that says any building for habitational use built after 1990 has to have a very specific type of electrical box that is fire preventative. Given the wildfire situation in California, that's the reason that's there. If you have a building built before 1990 and is habitational in California, we will not be able to insure it. That could change down the road, but for now, something we do not do. Moving along, artisan and trade contractors. This is your basic, your electricians and plumbers and such, painting, drywall, etc. We do landscaping and tree services, although tree services has just gotten excluded recently. It has to do with workers' comp. That could change relatively quickly, but nonetheless, try lawn care. We definitely, at this point, we still have lawn care as an option, but those are the categories in this that we can insure. Some of the things that are included on this, I mentioned earlier, HNOA, hired and non-owned auto. That's considered included on all of our policies under the business liability limit. We can also put the commercial auto on there if they need it, as well as these other things. Now, the reason they mentioned the blanket AI and waivers of subrogation, in this category, it's useful to sell the fact that those are automatically included in our policy at no additional charge. Let's say that your client has a BOP or a general liability, they're an electrician, and they think, well, we're too pricey because we're including everything. Well, if they go out and they're going to get COIs for additional insurance or waivers of subrogation, they're going to pay for every single document that they get. Whereas in our policy, it's automatically included. So by the time they add up the cost at the end of the year of all of those additional documents, they're probably paying as much as, if not more, than our policy. So I like to mention that as something that's there as a very good feature of our policy. It seems pricey, but the reality of it is when you look at the price in total, it winds up sometimes being less expensive. Also, inland marine, we don't technically have inland marine. That is considered a monoline policy, just like a monoline general liability or a BOP or workers' comp. But our policy, being comprehensive, acts like inland marine. And more importantly, your client's probably going to want a certificate of insurance that says Save Inland Marine. We can do that. We can state in our policy, this policy acts as an inland marine policy. So they've got the coverage there that they. The notable declines are listed down here. Roofing is a primary issue, especially when it comes to workers' comp for us. Roofing and workers' comp don't go well for us, especially in a comprehensive type policy setting. So we do not do that. We don't do general contractors or paper contractors. Logging, obviously. One of the unique things, masonry, framing, and carpentry does require 2 or more years of experience in the business. There's a question that'll weed that out. We will not take brand new electricians, brand new plumbers, carpenters, those types of businesses. And then finally, New Jersey's got specific laws for carpentry, masonry, and concrete work, and we cannot offer this type of policy in the state of New Jersey. Some of the other categories, these are more minor. We don't do these as much, but we do them. This is your auto services, your repair shops, body shops, those types of things, gas stations. One thing I noticed on a previous one I didn't mention, we do not do 24-hour, I'm the landlord, I think. We do not do convenience stores that are 24 hours. It's just an area we cannot insure. That goes for the landlord scenario, as well as when you're down here talking about mom and pop shops. Basically, any 24-hour convenience store we aren't able to insure. But coming back to this auto services, we handle all of these categories, and we have garage keepers in every policy set to the business liability limit, which is $1 million per occurrence. It includes commercial auto. Hired and non-owned is on there as well. I'm sorry, doesn't include commercial auto. Commercial auto can be put on there if it's needed. Some of the notable declines down here, dealerships, newer used cars. The reason that we can't do dealerships is because we have to schedule every vehicle on our policy, being a comprehensive policy. In the dealership situation, you can see where that would be unfeasible. Just too many vehicles moving on and off the lot. We don't do rental services pretty much of any kind. So think of rental of vehicles, but also rental, let's say, ladders or equipment for machinery, either construction or farming or any type of rental really becomes an issue for us. We do not do salvage. We don't do towing, but that is considered advertised towing. Technically, we do incidental towing. So if you have a mechanic that has their own wrecker and they will pull cars to their shop to work on them, that's allowed. And we handle all the issues involved in that. Obviously, they probably want to insure the wrecker with us. We can do that. But advertised towing is a no-go. Transportation, I mentioned earlier, that's your trucking and logistics. We can't do those. Tire shops. Oops, I moved. Sorry. Where was it? Here we go. Tire shops. We cannot do tire shops of 30% or more in revenue of tires. If it's a mechanic shop and they sell a set of tires because the vehicle needed it, that's okay. But if they have 30% or more of sales in tires, we will not be able to insure. And once again, our questionnaire will sort that stuff out. Moving along here, Main Street Retail. This is your mom and pops. We handle convenience stores. Once again, no 24 hours. We do liquor stores, grocery stores, retails. We handle the main areas of concern for them. And then the areas that we cannot do are smoke shops, cannabis shops, high crime scores, which is 80 or higher in this category, and then manufacturing of their own brand. And this is unique. If they have a small mom and pop and they're selling candles that they make and sell in their retail shop, that's okay. But if they're selling it to other stores, either retail or wholesale, that's manufacturing that gets too big for us, and we cannot handle that scenario. So let's say you've got a clothing store and they make their own accessories for clothes, that's okay. But if they're making accessories on a large scale, selling wholesale retail, that's a no-go. One of the things that's not mentioned on here is we do not handle any importing. So if they actually import their goods themselves, that's an area we cannot insure. But if they're actually buying them from a wholesaler that maybe imports them from somewhere else, that's okay, as long as they're not doing the direct wholesaling on their own. Okay, moving along. Personal professional services is your accounting and tax services, your gyms, cosmetologies. We handle all the main categories there for insurance for coverage. The areas that we don't do, tanning, keratin treatments, medical consulting, those are all primarily due to the health risks and our lack of healthcare ability to ensure healthcare coverage. We don't do legal services, so no law offices, and again, no health services. Cleaning, janitorial, this is both residential and commercial. Handle all the main coverages there, including hired and non-owned, which is a big area of coverage in this category. We do handle the hired and non-owned, of course, inland marines there. And once again, the blanket AI and waivers of subrogation, those add up if you're buying them for a general liability or a BOP. They're included in our policy, that's with lower pricing. Notable declines, advertised junk removal or window cleaning. Now, advertised junk removal is saying if they're advertising picking up your sofas and chairs or washers and dryers or refrigerators, that we cannot do. It's kind of like the incidental towing versus advertised towing. They advertise the junk removal, we cannot insure it. If they do it as part of their service, they're just removing it as part of their deal with whoever they're working for, that's okay. Window cleaning, obviously interior window cleaning is usually not an issue. You rarely see a situation where they're more than 2 stories above, although occasionally you might see a foyer with 3 stories. But those will be covered. We do cover, I think, up to 30 feet. So that's not an issue on the interior. It's the exterior above 30 feet. Now you're talking about booms and lifts and those, things that you have to lower down the building and out, and that's an area that we do not insure. Just too high of a risk for us. Those are the primary categories. We'll come back and take any questions on those. That was a lot, I know. But we have resources here that I'm going to show you next. This slide that's in the slide deck, you'll be able to click on these links if you want to, although obviously you're going to want to use INVO's portal to get to us, and we'll get you the credentials, and that's fine. This producer portal training, however, takes you to, let's see, it's this training site right here. And this is what you'll use if you do have questions about how to operate our system. It's a simple step-by-step guide on how to do things. It also includes videos with verbal instruction. It walks you through running a quote in our system. You just click play and it'll play for you with volume, which is nice. It refers to all of this stuff. I'll come back to this little highlighted portion in a minute. But all of that's included there with video guides, and then also the payment, making a payment, setting up the payment, generating the payment link, including how to set up the two-step micro deposit payment system. There's two forms of payment, either credit card or ACH/bank payments. The ACH/bank payments, you have to do the two-step micro deposit. There's actually one way you can avoid it, but most people don't want to do it. It's actually providing their bank information to us directly, which many of them don't want to do, understandably. So we have this two-step payment system. This guide here shows you how to do all of that. It has some screenshots that show you what you'll need to do, including when they finally get their micro deposits put in their bank, you'll see this code will show up on their bank deposit or bank statement. They'll have to get that for you in order for you to finish the payment, and that's how the payment is generated. So that's really what this training module does. Now, I want to mention also, it talked up here about when you go through underwriting, you're going to be using the email that we send you as opposed to starting a brand new thread. What that's referring to is, let's say you've got a quote that referred, and you, after finishing everything on here and going down and hitting coverage summary, hit the gift price indication, you have to refer it. It'll give you a button to push refer, and then you will get an email from us that'll look like this. Here it is. It comes from agency support, and this is the email that you'll use. You hit reply all or reply, either way, and then your email will, you see in this case, Annette Schneider, and put this information in there. And then underwriting will get back to you in this email. Continue to use this very same thread whenever you have a referral situation. We cannot only speak to our underwriters on the phone, but having an email that you can speak directly to them with is the next best thing. And it really is better than many other situations. We used to not be able to, we used to have to do it, us as the intermediary for all underwriting conversations, which was a pain. Now you work directly with our underwriters, which is really nice. So that's it for that producer portal training. One other thing I was going to show you, this keyword eligibility page. This is this right here. When you click on the link right here in our presentation that I'm going to give you, it brings you to this screen. Here's where you do a search to see if we cover a category or not. Disregard that search button up there. I don't know why we have that still, but it doesn't work. Put your search down here, and let's just say bar. It's going to show you the different types of bar scenarios that are eligible or not eligible, depending on. Cabaret is obviously like a nightclub. And if there's specific information about that category, it'll mention it here as well. So, like a masonry in New Jersey. Here, let me just show you really quick what that would look like. Oops. Gotta get the O in there. There we go. States ineligible, New Jersey. And we mentioned that earlier. So, and it'll show you like South Carolina on the bars. It'll say ineligible there. Georgia has another situation where they cannot do convenience stores. So I don't have that on my slide deck, but Georgia and convenience stores do not work for us at this point. I hope that gets changed, but for now, that's where we're at. There's some other information in here. I don't want to go through all of this, other than to say these two links right here. If you need a certificate of insurance, you'll get this deck from us. Click on this link, save it to your favorite so you can come back to it. And it takes you to our website where you'll complete a form for the certificate of insurance, including any wording. And you'll send that to our service team, and then they'll process the certificate of insurance for you. Same thing on endorsements. Send you this link. You click on it, takes you to a form, fill it out, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the important thing on this slide. This one's really just kind of a new person training. So if you're new to insurance and you don't know what approved, referred, or declined quote is, this is kind of our explanation of those things. Here's some contact information for us in terms of policy. One thing I also like to point out, if you're in our system and you're running a quote, let's see, you've got this draft right here, and you have a question, you can click on this little chat button down there, and it gives you a pop-up, and you can type in your question. You choose existing submission or general question. You type in your information, sends it to us. We have people on staff there from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, so general business hours. It's myself and my teammates, and we're very quick at getting back to you on those things. So if you have a question, send it over to us. We'll get back to you right away. You can have that conversation with us right there, or you can call us. Once again, that phone number is right here. It's 855-430-7220. This is our email box address. You'll never send an email directly to me. You always send it to the team, agency support at 3insurance.com. That way, if I'm not available, one of my colleagues will pick it up and work it for you. We talked about the chat button. Let's see what else. This is just some basic information on things to know. This is actually discussed when you're in the agent portal training. These types of messages are in here, the information that's listed here. Rule of engagement. The only one I want to mention here today is agent of request or agent of record, broker of record. If you have an opportunity to take, let's say you've got a client that comes to you and says, I've got a policy with 3, but I want you to be my client, my agent of record or broker of record, you need to get us the signed agent of record statement or broker of record statement before the 30-day window comes to you. So let's just say they've got a renewal set for January 1st and it's in October. Get us that agent of record renewal right away, because as of December 1st, that window's closed and we can no longer honor that request for you. They'll have to continue to stay with their current agent or get a brand new policy somewhere else. So basically, it's a 30-day window. Just think that. And if you have any questions, just let us know. We're happy to answer those questions for you. A couple reminders on here. These are pretty well self-explanatory. They've kind of been handled, including we just talked about this. One thing I will mention, for some reason, our system still allows you as an agent, when you're completing your quote, you get down to the coverage summary screen, you'll see this deductible box here with the 0. That's a drop down. Never change that. Just leave that at 0. If you change it, it'll go to underwriting. They're going to ask why, and they're going to decline it. They never allow anything other than a $0 deductible there. You can change deductibles in our system right here. You see we can go all the way up to $75,000. You can change business interruption. Right now, this is suggested business interruption here. You can put a user specified on there if you wanted to. You type in the amount here, 100,000, whatever. And then that's all you have got to do. I'm going to take that out though, because this is still technically a live draft. You can also change wind hail coverage deductibles from flat. And in most states, you can change it to these different levels. Some states have restrictions on the percentage that you can change it. This is effectively a deductible, but you can change that in here. The other thing you can change, if you have buildings on the property, you can exclude flood. You can change that from included to excluded. That will lower the premium significantly. If your client doesn't want flood coverage or need flood coverage, you can remove it, and that will lower your premium. So those are the main points that I like to bring up. That was kind of a quick whirlwind. You'll see we've got our email address in here, as well as my name and our phone number on there. Let's move on to the next portion. Avery, do you have questions? I'm sure you do. Let's start with the first one.
Yes, let me start. Anne had asked, are seasonal hotels, motels permitted, coastal in New Jersey?
So good question. The first thing I'll mention is coastal is a 3-mile limit. Anything within 3 miles of the coast, we cannot insure. Outside of 3 miles, we can, and that does include wind, hail. As for the seasonal, I'm not exactly sure what they're referring to. I apologize. But I would think, yeah, in most cases, yes. Unless it's something unique and different, then we can handle it on a case-by-case basis. And I'll be happy to take an email from you or question from you down the road, unless you want to specify in the chat thread. Avery, if you get that question back and they want to clarify, we can. Otherwise, we can move on to the next question.
Okay. Darby said, does your policy display the rate premium calculations? If so, are the premiums broken down by line of coverage?
They are not. We're not allowed to provide that information since it's comprehensive. We've got to keep it all. Now, that being said, if you had a specific situation and your client needs to know what is the general liability, I can get that information for you. And to some degree, it's hard for us to break down the liabilities when you start talking about cyber, stuff like that. We cannot get those dollar amounts generally, although it's possible. But no, technically we do not display that information. It's a policy price. It can be broken down into annual payments or monthly payments, whichever they prefer. You would change that, by the way, over here on the draft screen, um, right here, the pay plan. You can change that from monthly to annual. And in every state, with the exception of California, if you choose annual payment, you do get a discount. So there's a discount. In most cases, it's 3 to 5% generally. That will knock off the price for you. So that's a nice feature. Does that answer the question, do you think, Avery?
I would assume so, but also Anne responded about the seasonal. She said
Sure.
seasonal means open from approximately May through October, is what she means by seasonal.
That's a good question. And, so our premise generally is we insure the business for everything, but if it's not open, I don't think we would allow the insured because that, if it's sitting empty and not the business isn't operating, that's a unattended building risk. And I don't think we would in that scenario. But that being said, I'd say submit the quote anyway. Let's find out from our underwriters if that's something maybe if they have on-site attendance or something that would allow that situation to occur. I can't speak specifically to whether or not it would be approved, but it's worth trying. So
And then Anne had also asked, what are the coastal guidelines for New Jersey?
same thing. 3 miles is generally our range. Wind hail options become a little more limited in states that are hurricane prone, obviously. Like those deductible limits may be changed. And I'm not sure what they are specifically in New Jersey, and I don't have an example to show. But generally, 3 miles is the rule of thumb for that.
Okay. Also, it says restaurants. Is BYOB permitted?
Corkage fees and things like that. They are allowed, I believe, in certain scenarios. Once again, that's got to be reviewed and approved by underwriting. They probably would need an incident log in that situation as well. They're going to need an incident log anyway, but I would think as long as those things are tracked and recorded, I have to think there's a possibility, a likelihood it would be approved. Once again, case by case basis. Definitely submit it through underwriting to get approval.
Okay.
And I will say this also, our underwriting process is really pretty good. Occasionally we'll go through situations where it'll get delayed, but for the most part, we're 24 to 48 hours from the first touch. So as soon as you submit the quote for referral, within 24 to 48 hours, you'll get a response from us. And then after that, the responses are as quickly as you can get us information back. So let's say underwriting came back to you and said, hey, we've got these questions. Um, Please answer them. As soon as you get us back that information, we send it back to that particular underwriter, and they get back to you usually within a 4-hour window. So underwriting moves pretty quickly.
That's good to know. Christina asked, you don't do bars, but will you write bar grills where type operations?
We're talking about South Carolina then, I presume?
Christina, are you talking about South Carolina
I'll
or
just really
what
quick
says?
mention, we do bars and grills throughout the country. South
Yeah, she
Carolina,
just
because of
said
their dram shop
generally.
law, generally. Okay, yeah, we do. The only thing you've got to be aware of is a situation where there's dance floors and bouncers, anything like that. Anytime they've got those things, we're going to deny the quote. So, in fact, I had a situation where a bar was doing their due diligence. It was a regular restaurant, actually, but they had carded people at the door on Fridays and Saturdays because they didn't want anybody to be inadvertently served. But because they carded at the door, it was declined. So we underwriting came back to him and said, "Listen, if you're willing to sign a statement that you will not card at the door and that you'll have table service provided identification check, then we can turn this around and insure for you." And that's what they did. They were trying to be, good owners and doing the best they can to prevent that scenario, but because of our regulations, we couldn't have that. We worked with them on it, and they stopped doing the ID check at the door. So I kind of went off a little bit of a tangent there, but I think it's worthwhile to note that our underwriting is willing to listen to the scenario and make a decision based on the information available.
Okay. Another question from Christina says, on auto services, do you include loaner vehicles?
That's a good question too. We do not. That's kind of a rental situation. That being said, if the vehicle's owned by the shop and they put it under commercial auto, it would be insured under the shop regardless of the driver. So I just recently, in fact, let me do something really quick. I want to confirm. I saw we had a loaner issue come up earlier last week, and it was declined. Yep, we do not do loaner situations. So yeah, we will not handle that scenario. So unfortunately,
Okay.
even with the ComRO, that wouldn't matter. We do not handle loaners.
Okay. Christina also asked, do you have the maximum TIV, maximum sales, and receipts?
There is none. We do not have a max CIV, max sales. The last part was receipts, you said?
Yes, sales receipts.
Oh, okay.
So
So yeah,
sales
they may
slash
have.
receipts.
Yeah. So we may ask for tax identification or tax information to generate I'm sorry, not generate, to identify the actual sales reported in the last quarter. So yeah, we will ask for that information, but we do not have restrictions on those things.
Okay. Anne has asked, cleaning janitorial, is power washing acceptable?
It is if it's done from the ground. If they're lifting the power washer up off the ground, I've seen those get declined. So yes,
Okay.
it is
And then
allowed, but there are exceptions.
our last question is, would a monoline commercial auto policy for food truck or ice cream truck be acceptable?
No, we do not have any monoline policies. Our policy is always comprehensive. All of the liabilities, all of the building and or business personal property that's owned under the EIN number has to be on our policy. We have no monolines whatsoever. Don't even think of coming to us with those because we don't do them. So
Well, I think that's all our questions we have today. And guys, if you ever have any more questions, you can always reach out to Joseph. This webinar actually will be posted on YouTube. So if you want to go back and watch it, you're more than welcome to. It should be posted in about 10-15 minutes after we get out of here. But thank you so much, Joseph, for giving the rundown today. Oh, we have one more question. We'll do this
sure.
last one before we get out of here. Are gas station policies audible for premiums at the end of the year?
So technically, yes, especially when it comes to workers' comp. We will always provide an end-of-year workers' comp audit. That's on every policy with workers' comp. As for audits for renewals, yes, they will do that as well in cases. It's a case-by-case basis. So one thing I didn't mention during the presentation, you can get a policy actually bound all the way through without ever going through underwriting on the initial bind. That being said, after it's bound, we often will do a post-bind review to confirm things, and there may be premium updates with those. So if you're ever in doubt, I like to tell people it's better to know up front what their premium is going to be, get it reviewed by underwriting. If it's not giving you an automatic refer, let us know. We can force refer it for you so that we can get it to underwriting and they can take into account any exceptional situations and base premium based on those things. But yes, there could be an audit at the end of the policy based on sales. That's possible. Now, that being said, that would be affecting next year's premium. If they do an audit, a post-bind review, that could affect the current premium going forward if we have errant information for whatever reason. So.
Well, all righty. Thank you so much, Joseph, for your time today. Again, everybody, this will be posted on YouTube. If you need to reach out to Joseph, you're more than welcome to, or you can reach out to me. But again, thank you all for being here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Avery, I will send you that document as soon as we're off the call here, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Al.